Hello guys, welcome and welcome back to the channel. In case you're new here, my name is Liz, and if you're a returning subscriber, I want to say a big thank you for always coming back to support the channel. On today's episode of Money Matters, we're going to be talking about emergency funds, trying to understand what they are, how much should you be saving up for them, and where can you save your money for an emergency fund. And without further ado, let's dive straight into the video. Right, so before we even get into details of how much to save and where to save for an emergency fund, let's first try to understand what an emergency fund is. And I'll start by giving you a simple example. Let's say you're in a club or in a party, you've got your white sneakers on, very nice, very clean, and you're just having fun. And somebody walks by and they step on your sneakers. So you get very cross, you get very, very angry because they don't even apologize for it, they just walk by. So you tap on their shoulder and you're like, excuse me, do you know what just happened here? And you're like, you're very angry. So at that point you're left with two options. So option number one is to start a fight. Option number two is to run your mouth. Or actually, you even choose to do both options. And so you go on about it, and you're both very angry, and you're starting a fight. And in the middle of the fight, you realize that I'm not gonna win this fight. This guy is too big for me. So what do? You start to look for backup. So you ring up one of your friends and you're like, bruh, yo, my G, I need you right here, right now, because stuff is going left, So, your emergency funds look like that. They're like your buffer. They're like your safety net. Just like, this friend you're calling when you need backup. Your emergency funds look just like that. They're like they're like a safety net. Like when you really have no option, we have nowhere else to go. That is when you need an emergency fund. And so, before you even set up your emergency fund, you need to sit down with yourself, have a meeting with yourself, and understand what your emergency is, or what an emergency for you could look like. Because my emergency is not your emergency, it's not somebody else's. They all look different. For example, for me, a medical emergency for me is an emergency. For me or my family members, that's an emergency. That might not be the case for you or for somebody else. Somebody else, an emergency might look like losing a job and not having money for school fees for their kids. For somebody else might look like a water leak in their house. So they're all different. And your emergency fund will depend on your circumstances and your finances as well. So those are the things you need to consider before you set up an emergency fund. And once you've considered that, you get into the next point of how much should you save for an emergency fund. And so it is recommended to save 3 to 6 months worth of your living expenses. So say for example, having factored in your rent, your bills and everything, your car loan and all of that into your living expenses, then you need to calculate and multiply that by 3 to 6 to know how much your emergency fund should be, or how much should be in your emergency fund. So it is recommended that you start small. You don't have to do the whole 6 months at a go. You don't have to have all that money in one go. You can save up slowly. It is recommended to start saving up slowly. And let's be honest, most of us don't have that lump sum of money kept away somewhere just so we can transfer that from wherever it is to an emergency fund. Most of us have to build that money. Most of us have to save up for that money. So you have to set a goal for yourself. Say your living expenses is £1,000, $1,000, say 10,000 Kenya shillings per month. Multiply that by 6 or 3 to 6, because you start from 3 to, or it is recommended to do 3 to 6 months. Multiply that by 3 to 6, you get your figure, and then you can split that into several months, so you know how much you can be saving per month. And don't push yourself too much. I'd say don't set the limit too low, such that your emergency, when an emergency comes up, you're going to be looking for money elsewhere, borrowing and asking for loans. But also don't set it too high, such that you're also eating up into your monthly bills, and you're not able to cater for that. So just have a reasonable target for yourself. And with that said, you should also consider where you want to save your money. But before we get into where you save your money, there are 3 factors you should take into consideration before transferring your money wherever it is that you want to transfer it to save it. Factor number 1 is accessibility. Factor number 2 is growth. And factor number 3 is safety. So you want to take into consideration these 3 factors before you transfer your money where you want to transfer it to save it for an emergency. Let's get into detail about all these factors that I've just mentioned. So accessibility, which is the first one. When you're setting up your emergency fund, you need to have instant access to your money, because when an emergency comes up, it's not planned for. It's something that just arises. So you need to have instant access to your money. Let's say, ideally, I would say within minutes, within hours, but I wouldn't recommend to save your money in an option where it will take you 1 to 2 business days to access your money, because then I don't think that will be an emergency fund anymore, not to cater for your emergencies if you cannot access that money immediately ASAP. So that's point number 1. Point number 2, you should also consider growth of your money, because as much as we are saving up that money for an emergency, we are not anticipating for that emergency. We are hoping that it will not come up. But as the money is there, where it is that you've saved it up in, we want it to grow. We want it to accumulate annually or monthly. So save your money in a place where you're gonna get a good interest rate for your money, and most of these places are easily available online and easily accessible. You don't have to go through a long process of trying to register yourself. Point number 3 is growth. Point number 3 is safety. You want to save your money in a very safe place, not under the bed, not under the pillow, but somewhere where it is safe, where nobody can access your money. So with that said, where would I save my money, or where am I saving my money? Currently, I'm saving my money in a money market fund, and that is where I would recommend you to save your money. Why do I say that? Because a money market fund has all these 3 factors taken into consideration already. You can access your money ASAP, you're getting a good interest rate for your money, and 3, the money is safe. Nobody can access it. So if you're in Kenya, for example, there's CIC Money Market Fund, there is Safaricom, there's one money market fund that has recently come up. It's called ZD by Safaricom. You can easily access ZD through your M-Pesa app. Just go to your M-Pesa app and look at it. You'll see ZD there. And I'm not being paid by Safaricom. I'm not being paid by CIC to say this. I'm just telling you because they're very easily accessible, and they're working, and they're very reliable. And it's working for me because I've saved up my money in ZD, which is the one I'm just telling you about, which is from Safaricom. And I'm seeing my money growth every day. Actually, you can open your app and see your money growing every day, and that motivates me to keep saving. So ideally, I would save my money, or I would recommend you to save your money in a money market fund. You can also try online banks, because they've also taken these three factors into consideration. The money is easily accessible, it is safe, and there's a good interest rate, there's growth of your money. Now, what nobody tells you about an emergency fund is that it might take you years to build your emergency fund. It's not something that will just grow in a day or two or in a few months, unless you have that lump sum of money which I was talking about, unless you have all that money in one go, like the 6 months worth of living expenses, unless you have that money in a lump sum. But otherwise, most of us need to grow that money, need to save up for that money to get to 6 months worth of living expenses. So it might take you years. I'm still building up my emergency fund. I'm not there yet. And don't beat yourself up if you can't raise that money, or if you set a goal for yourself and you're not reaching that goal. The point is to get started. The point is to hit the ball running. Just do what you can. Save up however much you can per month or per week. Just make sure you're just putting in a little bit of money into your emergency fund. You will have a buffer when you have an emergency fund. So I would really encourage you, please try and start saving up as much as you can. So don't beat yourself up again for not having all that money. It will take you years. I think for me, for the target that I've set up for myself, for my emergency fund, when I did the calculation, it came up to 4 years worth of saving. So I'm still in the process of doing it, but I'm just making sure that every day I'm putting in a little bit of money, and I'm encouraging my friends, my family. Please, I've been telling them about it. Please just save up whatever you can, and it will come and help you somewhere along the way. You also need to understand the difference between your regular savings and an emergency fund, or emergency savings. So your regular fund should be for things that you want to spend, things you might have been looking at, or things you might have been eyeing. But an emergency fund is strictly for emergencies. That's why when I started this video, I said you need to have a small sit down with yourself and establish what your real emergency is. Emotions aside, use your logic to think, what would be your emergency? What do you think when it comes up, like you really need money and you need a backup financially? So by the way, I've done another video on regular savings and how you can do your regular savings. I'll link the video down below, and probably I'll either put it up here or up here, so you can go and watch that, and that will also give you a good insight on how to save up for regular savings. And I hope you do watch that video. It has good insights on how to save regularly without much effort, like really minimal effort. So hope you've enjoyed this video, hope you've gotten great insights from this video, and hope you will start saving for an emergency fund. I'm not praying that any emergency comes up for you or for me, but just in case, because they do happen, I'm hoping that you will have a buffer when that happens. So hope you've enjoyed this video. Please give this video a thumbs up, a like, subscribe if you haven't done so, and leave a comment down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.